Hello and welcome to the Toledo Lucas County Public Library Sight and Sound Video History Project. I'm Tom Walton. It's been my pleasure to be involved in this project from the beginning, and it's been enriching. I've learned a lot with all of these wonderful Toledoans that we've had a chance to sit down with and get even better acquainted with. And today, no exception. Today, Norm Damschroeder sits down with jazz great Jean Holden.
I'm Norm Damschroeder, Assistant Director of Jazz Studies at the University of Toledo. Today I'm interviewing Jean Holden, Toledo's First Lady of Song, for the Toledo Lucas County Public Library Sights and Sounds Video History Project. Welcome, Jean.
Hi, Norm.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, people in Toledo know you for, as a singer, entertainer here now for over 45 years.
That's right.
And
when you say that, it just doesn't seem like it's been that long, but
it seems like a shorter time.
About 45 years, yeah. Yes.
And so people, know you from that, from your various club and public performances, and they don't know maybe as much about your background. So let's start with where you come from, how life was growing up, where you grew up.
Well, I born in a little hick town called McGee, Arkansas. Was born there, raised there for a while, then moved with my mother and her husband at that time to Shreveport, Louisiana. And I was about 8 years old at that point, and lived there for. I went to finished high school in Shreveport, Louisiana, and my mother marriage broke up with that husband, and so it was just my mother and myself. She was a single mom raising me in Shreveport, and that was where I did my studying for voice. It was in Shreveport, Louisiana. Throughout my high school years, I studied privately and was very much involved with all of the various musical performances and competitions and what have you in Shreveport, Louisiana.
There was a lot
throughout high school.
Yeah, a lot of music going on around.
A lot of music going on, right. Now, Shreveport, Louisiana is right in the Arklatex area, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas area, so I did competitions throughout that area during high school, and not to brag, but brought back lots of trophies and awards. So,
and so
and that was all doing classical music. I kind of was raised listening to, in Shreveport, Louisiana, was where the Louisiana Hayride was broadcast every Saturday night, and so that was what I kept my ear glued to, was the Louisiana Hayride on Saturday nights, and then other times would be the radio, listening to Patti Page and Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, the likeness of those people, So I grew up listening to that. And Patsy Cline, I remember hearing Patsy Cline live on the radio, So. I love country music. I don't think there's any kind of music that I don't care for, except for some of the things I can't understand today, so.
Yeah, wow. So then you graduated from high school and you were pretty well on your way as a singer, as a classical singer.
Right, as a classical singer.
More opera.
Right, right.
Then did you end up going that direction?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't. I obtained several scholarships from Booker T. Washington High School is where I was attending in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I, like an idiot, turned every scholarship down. They had gotten a 6-month scholarship for me for Juilliard, and I had a full scholarship at Oberlin. Can you believe that?
Yeah,
and just turned it down. I was in love with this gentleman. I was 17, he was 21. I was in love and thought, hey, who wants to go to college? You know, let's get married and have kids. And so that was what I did. And he's a wonderful gentleman. We outgrew each other. We have 2 children, Lisa and Jerry. Jerry is now 50, Lisa is now 47. And they are the best thing that happened for me out of that marriage. I don't regret them at all. But it would have been nice had I made the decision to go on, because I didn't realize, coming from Shreveport, Louisiana, how close I was to Oberlin. And I could have taken that scholarship. And for years I had nightmares about the fact that I had made such an unwise decision, you know. But I've been blessed. I've been so blessed. Life has been good. I've been able to do. I transformed over to the kind of music I do now. A lot of people remember me from doing classical music because I did sang with the Toledo Opera Association for 6 years. Was one of the first. There were 3 of us, 3 blacks in the Toledo Opera Association at that time. That was under the direction of Lester Friedman. And I was with him for 6 years. And then I was with the Roger and Eve Weir. Eve Weir was very prominent at Central High School doing the musicals. So we knew each other. And then she had me do the 3-penny opera out at the University of Toledo. So a lot of people remember me. Every now and then I run into people say, oh, I remember you from the 3-penny opera. I played Mrs. Peachum in the 3-penny opera. And people go, what's the 3-penny? Well, that's the show that the song Mac the Knife came from, was 3-penny opera. Right. So, but, and then I went to, we would have our rehearsals on Jefferson Avenue next door to the Park Lane Hotel, which was at that time Bach Conservatory. And so we were having rehearsals there, and I said, you know, don't they have music over at the Park Lane Hotel? And they said, yes, Stanley Cowell plays there.
Great
and I
pianist.
said, I said, I'd love to go over and sing over there. So Roger, who was my attorney and remained my attorney for years until he passed away a few years ago. Roger and Eve Weir took me over to the Park Lane Hotel, and Roy Davis Jr., the Park Lane Hotel at that time was owned by the Davis family. And Roy Jr. Says, let's listen to you. So I sang for him, auditioned for him. And he says, well, we'll hire you for two weeks. And I stayed for 2 years there. But Stanley Cowell was the very first, and I don't know if he remembers this. I just saw him on TV here recently. He's going to be in town for the Art Tatum celebration in October. And I said, I wonder if Stanley remembers me and remembers the 2 of us working together there. But after that, then it was we did the 2 weeks together, and then Fred Kopp, and I stayed there for 2 years. Yeah, I'm just rattling.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Now, what brought you to Toledo? Was there family here in Toledo, or?
Yes, we had family here, and the Boldens, Hubert and Marion Bolden. Marion Bolden and I were first cousins. And they've both passed away, but they owned a large dry cleaning establishment here in Toledo. And so Marion wanted me to come up, that's the summer of 1956, to stay home with the kids while she worked all summer at the dry cleaners. And so when I got here, she says, oh, you're too cute to leave you here, to have you stay at home. Let's come over to the cleaners and work the counter, you know, take in the stuff in the clothes and cash register, work the cash register and what. And so that was what I did, and that was when I met Howard Holden, and because he was driving the pickup truck to pick up the clothes out in the country and bring them into the cleaners. And so that was when I met him. And then we were married in 1957.
And just
when I was 17.
17, and settled,
oh, God.
Settled here then?
And settled here in Toledo.
Worked at the dry cleaners for how long?
I only worked at the dry cleaners 2 summers. But then my mom came here as well. And she's so precious.
Yeah.
So precious. She's 89 years old now. But you know, you stop me whenever you think you need to stop me, because I'll just get to rattling.
I want you to rattle.
Okay. But you know, I think about my mom. My mom, going back to the time when she was raising me in Shreveport, Louisiana by herself, worked as a housekeeper for a family, a Mr. and Mrs. Staggs, Mr. Staggs was an attorney and then later on became a judge. And she worked for them and supported me off of $25 a week. You know, I cannot imagine. I can't imagine anybody
raising a child
you know,
on $25 a week.
And this was with an apartment. We were in an apartment, and the clothes that she would buy. And I had maybe 3 outfits for school that I would wash and iron them and start back over. So there were those 2 days I didn't have an extra outfit, so I'd go back to what I had on Monday. And right to this day, I can wear the same. My husband tells me all the time, you wear that same thing over and over and over and over. Well, that's because I grew up that way. You know, I had 3 outfits. I'd wear something Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I'd double back to Monday, what I had on Monday, and you know, so forth and so on. So I have a great appreciation for not having a whole bunch of clothes, you know. But my mother, God love her, I just adore her. 89 years old, and we all share the house together. We're in Collingwood, and she's just precious, precious, precious jewel.
Well, she makes the best catfish in town.
Can she
I know that from experience.
Yeah, catfish and grits, and she still gets up every Sunday morning and does brunch. You know, and she's very offended if we're busy. If Harvey and I are busy and have something else to do, she's very offended if we can't stay and sit and have brunch, Sunday brunch, and which consists of grits and eggs with cheese and sausage and bacon, you know, all that good stuff. Yeah, she's precious. She's precious.
Now, she came up before you had Jerry? Jerry was born, what, 19?
She joined me when she found out I was going to stay here and get married in 57. She came right up. She came right up. And she was with a gentleman at that time, and was married to a gentleman at that time. And that relationship didn't last very long at all.
So did you go back to singing, or were you singing during that time, or?
I never really stopped. When I came to Toledo in 1957, I auditioned for a number of different things. And one of the first things I did was I auditioned with, I can't remember the name of the group now, but they were based out, my cousin was a member of Braden Methodist Church, and Charles Sumner, the son of the pastor there, Reverend Sumner's son, Charles Sumner was very involved in music and was a wonderful singer. And there was a show that we did called Lost in the Stars production out at the Toledo Zoo Amphitheater that we did. And it was a wonderful, wonderful show. I don't remember, there was leads that came in from New York for that show, and I can't remember their names right now. But anyway, I did that with Charles, and So I kept doing just a number of different community things.
Yeah.
I was involved with some things out of Frederick Douglass Community Center also. But yeah, there was a lot of theater things. And then I did the theater things with Roger and Eve, where we did The Sound of Music and West Side Story, and all of those shows I had always had a small lead in them as well.
Wonderful. So then, once you started to work, both kids were born by the time you were working more
Jerry was
professionally.
born in 1959. Lisa was born in 1962.
Okay. So then, was there any problem with juggling, two kids and singing nights and?
No, my husband was, Howard, was very cooperative. He took care of them in the evenings, and so there was no problem there. And at that time, you see, I worked constantly. Once I started working in the supper clubs, the Hospitality Motor Inn was probably my first. I think I stayed there for like 14 years. But I was always working. I did some secretarial work for a while, and that was the only time that I had to kind of juggle. Well, didn't have to really at that time because both kids were in school during the day, so I didn't have to really juggle, which is a blessing because it's so difficult now. I hear such horror stories about people trying to get someone to take care of the children when they're working, and so I'm very blessed that I didn't have that.
So speaking of the kids, Lisa and Jerry, both wonderful musicians themselves, did you have any push towards them doing that, or were they just naturally interested?
They were just naturally interested in it.
Yeah. And
They were naturally interested in it because I sang. They wanted to kind of do what they saw me doing. It wasn't that I pushed them into it, but I made them study. Lisa had to go to Bach Conservatory and do piano lessons when she was of age, and Jerry is a drummer, and he took lessons from Bob White as well as Al Johnson. Al Johnson was his idol, So they both worked with him. So, and he learned, and he reads music. There are not a lot of drummers who can read the drum music, the drum parts, and he can do that. He can do that. If someone came into town and wanted a drummer and had the sheets laid out, he would be able to read that.
Yeah. And they're both wonderful singers also.
They're both
kind of come by that
singers.
naturally?
That's naturally. I didn't try to prod them into doing it at all. They were both. I'm so proud of them. I am so proud of them. Lisa teaches second grade at Chrissy Elementary School, and she's a wonderful, wonderful teacher. And Jerry is out in LA with his company, Tayet Music. Tayet Media Corporation.
His company.
Yes, his company, yes. And he has a lovely lady, Shay Chambers, and just a wonderful singer who's done backup with Elton John and Mariah Carey and Michael Bolton, a lot of those people. She's wonderful.
Wonderful.
So a lot of music in our family.
Yes.
Yeah, even my husband now, who is, again, which is I never really thought about it too much, but Howard Holden is who I was married to for 15 years, and now Harvey Hanna, both initials HH, Harvey Hanna. Harvey and I have been married. We've been together now 32 years. Yeah. We've been married 30 of those years. So, and he even sings.
I have heard him do so.
Yeah.
In German, no less.
In German. Yeah, he sings in German. And that's my dearest, bestest friend.
Yeah.
That Harvey Hanna. Yes.
Thinking about, singing, going from classical music to singing more popular styles of music, and you mentioned a few people that you heard growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Who were maybe some of the influences, the real major influences on how you present some of these songs? What singer's book do you tend to like to
Mm-hmm.
sing from? And
Well, Patti Page, and I don't know how many people remember Patti Page, but that was who I grew up hearing, was Patti Page. I loved her. I loved the way she phrased and the way she used her hands. And people talk about the fact that I use my hands a lot. I'm trying to keep from holding them down, trying to keep from flouncing them around too much right now. But anyway, I loved her. I loved Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald. Now, I can't sing like any of those people. I can't sing like Ella Fitzgerald. I cannot sing like Sarah Vaughan. But I loved their voices. I love their voices. And I don't know. There's so many people I like for so many different reasons. So it's hard to pinpoint one and say I like that one, in particular. I love Nancy Wilson. But and Dinah Washington. But I don't know.
how many of those singers did you get to experience live? Did you get to see any of them?
Sarah Vaughan.
Sarah Vaughan?
Yeah, Sarah Vaughan, Nancy Wilson. I can't remember.
Coming through
No.
Toledo?
Yeah,
Mostly?
coming through
Yeah.
Toledo.
Yeah.
Now, when I worked at the Park Lane, during those 2 years I was at the Park Lane, I met Earl Garner,
Yeah. The great pianist.
a
there.
great
Yeah.
piano player, and he does that humming when he's singing, you know. Someone else I met, it was Earl Grant. I don't know if you remember Earl Grant.
It's also,
Played the organ. It was a tiny little guy. What a bundle of energy he was. I met Carol Channing at the Park Lane Hotel. Also Mike Douglas. Remember Mike Douglas
Yes.
had the TV
Had
show,
a TV show.
out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
Out of Cleveland, and his daughter was attending Miami University, and he was at the Park Lane over the weekend to be able to visit with her, you know. So I met a lot of interesting people and celebrities there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you've been, once again, performing all this time and in various places. So what were some of the venues besides the Park Lane that you really enjoyed mostly?
It's too bad because most of them closed now.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Most of them are closed now. Michelangelo's, which was owned by Gail Astles. He's still around town, but he's not in the nightclub business anymore, I don't believe. Oh my God, I can't really think now. Michelangelo's, the Hospitality Motor Inn. I just can't think right now, Norm.
Yeah.
I did some things occasionally. Oh, Rusty's. Oh
Rusty's.
God.
Yeah.
Rusty's, when she was on Secor,
On Secor.
in that Farmer Jack
Yeah. And now-
complex.
Yeah.
I worked there for her. What a sweet, sweet lady.
Yeah.
Sweet lady. And I did some things when she was for Rusty's, when she was out on Tedrow as well. Then Harvey and I very briefly had our own place.
Oh,
It was
Jean's
called
Cafe.
Jean's Cafe
Monroe?
Cabaret on Monroe Street. And we primarily opened that so that I would have a place to sing. Now that was during a time when I was really very idle, not very much performing was I doing at all. And we opened that place so that I could have somewhere to sing. Well, we've been there, done that now. We don't want to do that again. But mostly what I did was clean the toilets to keep the place clean and sing,
Yeah,
you know,
that's,
in that
yeah,
order.
That's called owning a club.
In that order, in that order,
You had an
yeah.
interesting performances there. You not just you, but you'd have, say, Jim Lee playing piano,
Oh, yeah.
or you'd have some classical music
Yeah,
with, say,
we
Stephen
did.
Elisha playing cello. Or
Yes,
you do
yes.
quite a mix.
We had
there.
Stephen Elijah, and we did chamber music. I don't know, Harvey's sitting over there, I don't remember what Francis
Renzi.
Renzi.
Yeah.
And Toth,
Kirk Toth,
Kirk
the
Toth.
Toledo Trio.
yes.
I believe
We
at
had
that time.
them at Jean's. We had wonderful food, and it was a very beautiful little, tiny little place,
Yeah.
a little bit of New York, a little bit of Chicago. Beautiful, beautiful place, and we had great food.
Yeah. But
And it was nice and clean, because I worked hard to keep it clean.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't want to be anyone owning a
Oh,
club.
neither would I.
It's
Never
a lot of
again,
work.
never again.
A lot of work.
Yeah, never again.
Now, you started teaching at some point. You're just after that, or before?
Well, I had been teaching prior to that. My involvement with the Three Penny Opera out at the university, when I worked in that beautiful Dorman Theater, Bernie Cohen was the director for that, for the Three Penny Opera. And so in 1975, I was a little bit idle during that time, and he called and he says, you know, we're going to do hair. Would you think about coming out and coaching, doing vocal coaching for hair? And I said, sure, I'd love to. Well, I had been doing some private coaching at home. So I went out and coached hair for him 1975. And after that, I took on more students. And then in 1983 was when we decided to open the restaurant. And that stayed open until 1986, 87, 87, I believe. And then I took my studio out to the common space on Reynolds Road with Martin Nagy. And I stayed there for 15 years teaching. Now, during that time, I was also doing a lot of private things. And, but that was when I started teaching full-time, with coaching full-time. But now, as I said, I stayed there 15 years, and I ended up having to have some back surgery. And those stairs, my studio was up on the top floor. So it was,
long trip up there.
Yeah. And so our house thank God, is large enough. And my husband and my kids said, why don't you stay at home and teach, so you don't have those stairs? Well, God, I love it. Because I can get up and get myself dressed and ready, and I don't have to go out to the garage and get in the car and drive someplace. I'm just right there at home. So I really love that.
Yeah. Now, students, you've had probably hundreds of students at this point.
I've been
Any
so
memorable?
blessed. Yeah. Pardon?
Any memorable?
And memorable ones, yeah. Some I don't want to mention because they've never mentioned that they've come to me. So I don't want to mention their names, but I've been very blessed to be able to work with a lot of wonderful, wonderful young people. There's one young lady who is, her name is Adrienne Palicki. She is on the Friday Night Lights TV show, and she plays the part of Tara on that show. Now, she came to me just for speaking, so I work a lot with elocution for those people, for people who are doing what am I trying to say? Theater, some theater, but those people who are doing lectures also. I
Oh.
work with people who are doing that. So there are a lot of people I work with who are not actually singing.
Yeah.
But I have lots of young, wonderful, wonderful, talented singers that I just love to drag them wherever I can drag them to, you know.
Put them in front of everyone.
Yes, I want them to have that opportunity to get out. And there's so much talent. There's so much talent in the world, you know. Some of the kids, like that American Idol show, I wouldn't dare go and audition for something like that. You know, these kids are brave and bold and go out there and do that, and some wonderful talent has come out of that. But there's talented people everywhere.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So now you're still teaching your lessons? Are
Still
you
teaching.
performing in the area? I know for a while, well, my exposure to you was playing at Beverly Hills Cafe.
Right. Yeah. Now, see, that was
For
one I forgot to
several
mention.
years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we met.
Yeah. Jim Bishop, the pianist, had
Right.
hired me. And I
Right.
think we were there for how long?
Ooh, maybe
Two or three years.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Because we used to do the jazz things on Sundays
Yeah.
there. Yes.
And then weekends.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's always so good to work with you.
Oh.
You know, Lisa and I just love you.
I love you.
We just
I
love you and love working with you. You're just. And so when we can't work with you, we say, well, let's just go it alone. Then she puts her one woman band together, and but we miss working with you though. Yeah.
So are you performing a lot lately?
Not
or-
very much.
No?
Not very much. I'd love to. I think. I'd love to. Not as much as I would. I'm not looking forward to working like I used to.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 69 years old now. I don't want to. I'm not interested in doing that.
And being in a bar every
No.
weekend and.
No, don't want it.
Yeah.
Don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Don't want to do that. So I'm satisfied. So what we do mostly now are the mostly private engagements.
Some concerts. You've sung with the TJO, I think, the Toledo Jazz Orchestra.
Only
A
twice.
couple times.
Twice, and the Toledo Symphony
Yeah.
Orchestra once.
Oh,
That was a wonderful experience. Yeah.
great.
Very scary though, because they don't change. They play it in whatever key they play it in, and you have to
Yep.
run along
You have
behind
to-
them and do the best you can, you
Yeah.
know.
Well,
So,
that's
but
hard work.
if they ask me again, I'd try it again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So now Lisa's still in town teaching.
Lisa's still in town. She's out in the Springfield district at Chrissy Elementary School.
And Jerry's in.
And Jerry's
LA.
in LA, in Glendale, California.
So what keeps you going right here? Well, your mother still lives with you,
My
and
mother,
Harvey. And,
Yeah, and Harvey. We all share the house together, and just the three of us. And life is good. Life is good. Very thankful, very blessed.
Oh, I think Toledo has been blessed to have you
Well,
singing
you know, I
in the area.
love Toledo. There's really no other place I want to live. Harvey would like to go somewhere where it's warm all the time, but I'm not interested in that at all.
It's warm now.
It's warm now. It's warm now. Too warm for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you make trips back to Shreveport?
For class reunions,
Yeah.
I do. Depending, we've had them in class reunions in other places like Torrance, California, because a lot of the classmates live out in that area. But we're going to go to Fayetteville, Arkansas for a little family gathering here in a couple of weeks. So I don't get down there very often.
Most families here, with your mom here, and
It's just a very small, it's actually just us.
Just
So,
you?
Lisa, myself, my husband and myself. We're all it. It's a very small family.
Yeah.
That's why I always adopt you.
Yes.
Say this is Hardy's nephew.
You mentioned performing at, of course, the Park Lane Hotel and the Hospitality Motor Inn. Other places here in Toledo that you performed at?
Aku Aku or Aku Aku, the Aku Aku room.
Yeah.
I was there for a long time. That was run by Irv Shapiro. And I worked with Candy Johnson
Great
and Karen
saxophones.
Smith. Karen Smith played organ,
Yeah.
and Al Johnson.
The drummer.
I did say Candy Johnson.
Candy
didn't I?
Johnson,
Candy
yes.
Johnson and Al Johnson. Al Johnson on drums. Candy played saxophone, and Karen Smith played the organ. And I was the singer, and we would open for Count Basie. Had Count Basie there on the stage. Count Basie, Duke Ellington was there. Woody Herman's band.
Theater then?
No, you must have been a little guy then. You were
That was before my time here in
yes,
Toledo.
yes. That was 1964.
I was
Somewhere
born
in there.
1964.
Were you?
Yes. But so this was just a very large
Yeah, it
club
was a
with
large club. They
stage?
had great food, and they brought in these top bands. Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Woody Herman's band. Oh, there was another one, and I would open up for them. Frank Sinatra Jr. came in with his band, and so I had a chance to meet all of these wonderful people, fine musicians.
Yeah.
Fifi is a wonderful, wonderful lady here with her place, Fifi's. But I've only done something with work for Fifi maybe a couple of times, when maybe for special day, anniversary celebration or something like that. Because people will see me and say, "Oh, I saw you at Fifi's." I say, maybe once or twice you saw me at Fifi's. But I have done something with her. She's a fantastic lady. Let's see, the Red Parrot, Audrey, that owned that place. Do you ever remember the Red Parrot?
I don't believe I do.
Okay, that was here like in the not too terribly long ago.
Where was that?
Well, she used to have a place on Alexis.
That's
That
where I
was called some kind of side something or other.
Yeah.
What was it? Thunder Thigh Lightfoot or something like that. She used to, but then she
do recall
opened up
that.
this swanky little place called the Red Parrot.
Okay.
Little fiery little redhead lady,
Yeah.
and she was just amazing. So I worked for her for a while. too.
Some accompanists that you've mentioned, for example, Stanley Cowell, Fred Kopp. Who else have you worked with?
Oh, Eddie
Your-
Abrams.
Eddie Abrams.
Eddie Abrams.
Karen.
Who's
I
that?
think who else? Larry.
Oh, Larry Fuller.
Larry Fuller.
Larry Fuller worked when we had Jean's Cafe Cabaret.
Larry's now gone to Seattle. Has worked with Ray Brown and with.
Really?
With,
You know, occasionally I hear
Singer,
Ernestine
Ernestine Anderson.
because when he left us, he left and went
To work with her.
with her.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I loved working with him, and I loved working with Jim Lee. What
Lee.
a loss.
Yeah. Wonderful pianist.
Wonderful. We had known each other for years, and years. Oh, and the Red Fox Inn. Jim Lee and I worked there. Red Fox Inn with Charles Muhart.
Charlie Muhart.
Yeah.
Great drummer.
Yes,
And,
yes.
yeah.
Oh my God. Lots of different places, Norm, and some of them just kind of slipped my mind now.
Any places you've gone to and performed outside of Toledo?
Yes, the Chicago area, Canada. I used to work a lot up in Hamilton, Ontario, and in Hull, Quebec. I used to work a lot in those areas years ago.
In Chicago?
In Chicago. I went to Chicago to open a place for some people that had owned the Cousins Club, which was very well known then, and they opened this new place called Ruggles, and I went in and opened that for them.
Do you go
and
back?
I was there for. I go back to Chicago just to visit. I haven't performed there in years. But for about 2 or 3 years, I had a little apartment in Chicago because I was working there so much.
Working there that much.
Yeah. I worked at a place called Roberts Lounge, the south side of Chicago, with a fantastic musician, Tennyson Stevens. And he is one fine piano player. And at that time, Dick Van Arsdale was playing bass. He's since passed on. And I've forgotten who was playing drums. And also Ben Fernandez is a fine singer out of the Chicago area.
And still there?
No, that place is not still there. You wouldn't want to work there anyway now. Not now anymore, but I don't think so. But these are all very wonderful musician and entertainer friends that I do see fairly often. Ben Fernandez especially. He's just so good. So good. But you'll have to make me try to remember something else, because I know there's something I'm not remembering.
Anywhere else? Okay, Canada, Chicago.
Yeah, Waterloo, Iowa.
Waterloo, Iowa.
I worked there.
What's in Waterloo, Iowa?
Beside Fields.
Yeah.
Well, this was a neat little restaurant. This Dick Van Arsdale that I mentioned was from Waterloo, Iowa, and we have some relatives in Waterloo, Iowa. My mother says that I lived in Waterloo when I was 2 years old. I don't remember that, but Dick Van Arsdale, the bass player, lived in Waterloo, and I worked for him at his club, which was called Ricardo's, I believe, at that time. And worked with a young guy, a drummer, Andre Fisher, who married Natalie Cole. And Andre Fisher is the one that came up with that idea of Natalie Cole singing with her father being deceased. And Andre Fisher was the one that put that together, that idea together, and now it's taken off and everybody sings with their relatives that have passed on, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you, Jean, for coming in today and talking about your life and performing and music. And I want to personally thank you for all the work and teaching you've done for me, having performed with you. It's always a pleasure to work with you.
Oh, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Yes, thank you so much.
Wow, what a story Jean has to tell, huh? Thank you for being with us for the Sight and Sound Video History Project at the Toledo Lucas County Public Library. See you next time.